Hello, good morning. It is, I guess it's really close to not being morning anymore. It's 11:46. But it is July 20th, 2025. Um, Happy Moon Day for all who celebrate. But it is time for my weekly wrap up, or my weekend review, because it's what I read, what I've watched, what I've received, what I'm getting rid of, what I'm currently reading, everything that's been happening. Currently, I am reading it's called Forbidden by Phoenix Black. It is one of those crappy little Kindle romance novellas. Sorry, my hair is being ridiculous on the floor. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yes, Forbidden. I'll finish it very soon. I'll finish it within the day, so it'll be my next one. But there's a picture of the cover. You can tell what it is by the cover. And so this week was interesting because about halfway through, I decided I was no longer going to do TBRs. And this is how I used to read. I used to read without TBRs. I would just kind of randomize. I would randomize from the book wall, but I wouldn't like have a set TBR, and I kind of like it better. And so now what I do, every time I finish a book, I have 63 stacks, both in the closet and then also in my little walls that don't fit in the closet, and I count. And whatever book's on top of that stack, that's the book I read. If it happens to be a sequel that I cannot read yet, I read a book off my Kindle. And somehow this is like every other book has been a Kindle book, which I guess is fine, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ. So I did read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books last week. I am also going to tell you what they fit for in Her Kid as well when I talk about them. I also watched a documentary. It is a rewatch, so it doesn't really matter that I fell asleep at the end because it's a long documentary and it was like 11:45 at night. Doesn't matter. I've watched it before. I know how it ends. It's very sad. Anyway, first up, I read Triplet Trouble and the Red Heart Race by Debbie Dady and Marsha Thornton Jones, illustrated by John Spears. This was for Her Kid for TBR game. Face on the cover. Lots of faces on the cover there. This is a children's book about a group of second graders. I think they're second graders who are getting ready for Valentine's Day, and one of these kids is not really into Valentine's Day. They're triplets, and so she decides that she is going to start a bet so you can make the most red hearts. It's fine. It's a children's book. I give it 2 out of 5 stars. I will be putting it in my classroom. It's pretty young for my grade, but sometimes you get kids who can't really read all that well, so there's that. Not much to say there. Then the documentary I watched was the first Paradise Lost documentary, Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills. I do have it on VHS. Isn't it gorgeous? I love that I had this on VHS, and it just felt so fucking right, pushing that in and seeing it on my CRT. It was great. This is a really depressing documentary. There are, warning, literally the first 5 minutes you see footage of 3 dead bodies of 3 second graders getting dragged naked from a river. So there's a lot here. It is, though, however, one of the best put together documentaries of all time. Follows the case of the West Memphis 3. I don't think they did it. Yeah, I'm just putting that out there right now. And I'm not going to go into why, because it would take so long. There's so many reasons why, and I'm not going to get into that right here. I did watch this, like I said, it was a rewatch. I watched this when I was a senior in college, and I remember, like, because they were all on Amazon Prime. I still had Amazon Prime at that time. I would just, like, if I had 5 minutes, I was pulling up my laptop and I was going. I didn't have anything on my phone that maybe would have been a little bit more, a little bit easier to handle than a whole laptop. But no, I did rewatch this, and I am glad that I have this on VHS because it feels kind of right. 5 out of 5 stars, obviously it's the Paradise Lost documentary. All right, then I read the book that made me decide to stop doing TBRs, because this book is big, and I drew it, and not only is it big, but the first book I was kind of meh on. Like, it was fine. I got into it eventually, but I wasn't really super into it. So, like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take me so long. I'm like, what is the problem? And also, by the way, didn't take me that long. It took me like 3 days, 4 days maybe. Anyway, that is Stone of Tears by Terry Goodkind. I read this for Become the Avatar, for Earth on the cover. See lots of Earth down there. Stone of Tears is the second book of the Sword of Truth series. The first book is Wizard's First Rule, I think. Yes, Wizard's First Rule. This one we follow Richard after he has defeated Darkenrall and trying to figure out what's going on there. I like this one actually a lot more than the first one. That was not the case for the entire book. For the first 100 pages or so, I was like, I want this book to catch on fire so I don't have to finish reading it. I don't DNF. But as I got into it, I did enjoy it more. And that's kind of why I don't DNF, honestly, is because situations like this happen all the time where it takes me a little bit. And if I was a DNFer, I would have missed Glamorama. My guy, I love Glamorama. But this book, we get a lot of new interesting things here. We get a lot of interesting world building things. We meet some fun new characters like Warren. I love Warren. I know he's gonna die. I just know he is. And so, yes, I'm interested in continuing the series. Honestly, I read about 400 pages of this book on a trip to Fargo, which is like 2.5 hours away. And when I was in there in the Barnes and Noble, which you will see my collections from in my haul portion, I looked for book 3. They didn't have it. They had books 1 and 2, which I'm like, that's useless for me. But I did enjoy this enough that I am interested in continuing on the series. I gave it 4.25 out of 5 stars. Like I said, really rough start. Really enjoyed as I got into it, and I got more into the characters, I got more into the world, and there wasn't really, because there were like different subplots. You know, you had Richards, you had Kalans, you had Zeb's. What's his name? Zeb? I think his name is Zeb. You had Zeb's. The only one that I really wasn't interested in was the little girl and Chase. His name Chase. I think it's Chase. I don't remember the minor characters' names, okay, unless they're Warren, who I love. The only one I wasn't interested in was Chase and Rachel, and thankfully they had like 3 chapters total. So there's just, I am interested in continuing the series at some point. I don't think I have anything else in the book wall, so we'll see when that happens. When/if, I guess. But there's that. All right, then I read Captured by D. Dove. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I read this for Last 10 Years, came out in 2023. So Captured is it's 40 pages long. It's a little short story. I think it's a prequel to a longer series. It's gay alien porn. That's what it is. It's fine. All right. Then I read Daughter of Black Lake by Cathy Marie Buchanan, which I read for By the Hundreds. I worked a lot on By the Hundreds this week for 300 pages. And this is a historical fantasy. I mean, it's very historical, and there's some magic, which is why I would call it fantasy, about the bog people in England when the Romans are just starting to kind of get in there. And we follow Hobble and Devout in 2 kind of separate typelines. So Devout is Hobble's mother, and Hobble is a young girl. She's like about 13, 14, who was born with, you know, like a club foot basically, and we call her Hobble because she hobbles around. Some names here, man, like, I was like, oh my god. And so there's this druid that comes and learns that Hobble kind of has the sight and kind of see the future. And then in Devout's chapters, Devout is trying to deal with basically she's in love with this little orphan that's her like a childhood best friend, but young Smith, the son of a very prominent family, really has an eye out for her. And you know from Hobble's chapters that she does get with young Smith, but you kind of figure out how she got there. This one took me a bit to get into. It was fine. It was quick. It's not my thing. That's the thing. Like, this one is one of those ones where it's truly like, it's not you, it's me. Like, this is not a book I'm interested in. This is not a concept I care to explore, and this is not a time period that I really care about reading about. I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's good. I think it's good for what it is. I got it for like $3 at a dollar store. It was fine. I think if that sounds interesting to you, if that whole plot there, because then the druid does kind of there's a lot of like fanaticism and whatever. If that sounds interesting to you, I would recommend it. If it doesn't, give it a skip. All right, then another book on my Kindle, and this one, I swear to fucking God. All right, The Spicy Forbidden Romance Collection, Volume 1 by Alana Grant. I give it 1 out of 5 stars, first up, and I don't want to accuse other self-published authors of using AI, but like, it was clearly either AI or she's the worst writer in the world with the best line editor I've ever met. Grammatically, it was great, flawless, beautiful, no grammatical errors, no notes, everything was perfect. However, the story itself, super, super cliche. And I understand that, like, when you write, especially a lot of genre fiction writers who write a lot in very popular genres, like, I'm sorry, my bangs are killing me, who write in very popular genres, like this sort of genre, you're gonna have a formula and you're gonna write similarly. Like that I understand that happens, but very cliche, very repetitive. The stories didn't quite make sense. Like, they sort of did, but not really. And it was like the author kind of forgot what they'd written. And so there were a lot of situations where, like, somebody would betray you, and then in the next scene they'd be right back next to them, and I'm like, weren't you just a betrayer? But we're not gonna really talk about that anymore. I'm like, what's happening here? So like I said, like either AI or the worst writer with the best line editor in the world. Because honestly, not saying the people who can't write stories can't be good at grammar, but normally, like, kind of go hand in hand, right? Like, normally a story that's really poorly written is not going to have great grammar to it. The characters were very basic. It's 3 different novellas. All 3 characters were the same. All 6 characters, I guess, all FMCs and MMCs. They all sounded the same. All these cliches, which it genuinely felt like somebody had plugged in a bunch of shifter romances into an LLC. LLM. And into a business, LLM, and just publish what came out. And also, when I finished it, at the very back of the book, there are a number of other books that, you know, like how Kindle does, where they give you a bunch of other things that you could read. There's a handful of, like, more spicy romances, which I would expect. But there was also a book about AI. So I'm not saying anything, you know, I can't know for sure. I would not be surprised. All right, the last book I read, also that was for By the Hundreds, 500. It was 530 pages long. It was terrible. Anyway, this last one, also By the Hundreds, for 200, I read Volume 1 of ElfQuest Wolfrider by Wendy Payne and Richard Payne, which is a DC comic situation about these elves who live in this, like, art style, prehistoric world, sort of, and the main concern here is that humans have come to this world and they're really ruining everything. I didn't care much. I thought the art style was kind of ugly. I didn't really care about the characters or the plots. It's a comic. It's not, I got this in a lot of manga off of eBay. It's not manga. It's a comic, and it's really ugly, and I didn't really care all that much. I have some more in the book haul, and I'm not looking forward to it. So this is what I read and watched. The only thing I'm keeping from this stack is my VHS of Paradise Lost. Everything else is going. So there's that. Now, what I received, I've got some DVDs, I've got some books. It was my birthday last week. And I may have used that excuse. I do have a full ass huge book outload order coming in. Like, I'm talking the biggest book outload order I have ever made. It's insane. That should be here tomorrow. I'm so excited. I'm sure so the mail lady is too. But let's go. So first up, I did pick up the first 3 seasons. I don't know if there's only going to be 3 seasons, but I have seasons 1, 2, 3 of Legends of Vox Machina. I watched the first season when I still had Amazon Prime. I have been getting back into Critical Role recently. I started rewatching the first campaign, because I watched, like, maybe through, like, episode 11 or so, and now I'm on 5, I want to say. Almost on 5. And so I wanted to pick this up, rewatch it. I heard they're also going to be doing animation of the Mighty Nine, which is exciting. So I did pick this up. I'm missing D&D so much right now, you guys. And then let's just do all of my DVDs first, because I've got a couple more here. I picked up 2 movies. I picked up Crimes of the Future, which is Cronenberg. This really intrigued me. I think I saw May Leitz talking about it. I tend not to trust her judgment when it comes to the spooky stuff, except for what didn't she like that I love? She didn't like Rebuild the Genetic Opera. I'm like, okay. The other one I picked up was Nope, which I have seen, but I really would love to own. It was my favorite movie the year I watched it. I think it's just so well done. It's also the only Jordan Peele movie I've ever seen. I never watched Get Out. I have Get Out. I never watched Us. I did watch Nope. Really liked it. Really excited to rewatch it. Then the books. So first up, I picked up Pioneer Summer by Elena Malisilva and Katerina Silvanova. I gotta work on my Russian names, I'm so sorry. But this is a book that was like banned in Russia because it does depict a gay relationship, and that kind of alone intrigues me. It is translated from Russian, and I know the Russians can write, at least I know that classic Russians can write, so I'm pretty intrigued to see if modern or more modern Russians can write. When did this come out? This came out in 2021, so it's very, very recent. So yeah, the #1 best-selling star-crossed gay romance that took readers by storm and made international news when it was banned in Russia. So I was intrigued, so I picked up a copy. Then I got a bunch of books about the Marquis de Sade, and one that is by the Marquis de Sade. So I got first Sade, a biographical essay by Lawrence L. Bonji, which is just about the Marquis de Sade in general. That's really nothing else to say about that. I also have Without End, Sade's Critique of Reason by William S. Allen, which talks about his critique of reason and kind of looks at that. I guess we also have Sade, the Libertine novels, which is talking about the 4 Libertine novels, and the one that is by the Marquis de Sade is one that I didn't really like, but it does have other writings in it, so maybe those will be good. It is the 120 Days of Sodom and Other Writings. I read the 120 Days of Sodom. It's an unfinished novel, and you can tell, and it's really, really bad. Just because it is unfinished, it's incomplete, it's repetitive, it's not good. I much prefer Justine. I do have this is a nicer edition though. The other one I had was one of those crappy Amazon self-published ones. And this does have some other little things in there that could be interesting. It's also delightfully floppy. I'm in love. All right. Then I do have Sade, A Sudden Abyss by Annie Lebrun, which is, what's this about? It's just talking about his work as a whole. So there's that. Then I did go to Barnes & Noble. I said I went the day before my birthday, because the day of my birthday we had other stuff going on. But I did pick up 3 books. I picked up 3 Miles Past by Stephen Graham Jones. There were so many old Stephen Graham Jones books for me to pick from. Like, they had like his new popular stuff that I've read, but they also had so much of his old stuff that you can't really find as easily evermore. And I decided on 3 Miles Past. It's stories. I'm excited. that I had so much of it. I think he's really one of our biggest horror writers right now. I'm just like, I'm living for it. I'm so happy. I also picked up the first volume of Moriarty the Patriot by Yosuke Takeuchi and Hikaru Miyoshi, of course, based on the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I have a Tumblr mutual who loves this series, and I am vaguely intrigued. And the last thing I picked up, I was very happy to find that they had a Zola that I did not own. Normally, the only Zolas that you will find in the Barnes & Noble are Germinal and Tariq Rakan, both of which I own and have read, and I love them both. But I did pick up The Fortune of the Rougon, which is the first book in the Rougon Macquart cycle. I read, of course, Germinal, and I've read The Lady's Paradise. Excited to have another one, and this is the first one. Look at that. All right, then I tried out bookshop.org actually, because I made that giant book outlet order, and there was one book that I really, really wanted that they didn't have, which I guess, looking at it logically, I shouldn't be surprised by. And I was gonna go buy it on Amazon, but I was like, you know what? It was still Prime Days at that time. It's like, you know what? No, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna check out bookshop.org. So I did also pre-order Catabasis, but I did order 4 books. And the one that I made this entire order for was The Sluts by Dennis Cooper, which I have just heard so much about, and people talk about it all the time, and people recommend it all the time, and it's something that I think, especially in conjunction with like Poppy Z-Bright, I think I'm gonna enjoy it. So I did pick it up, and like I said, I shouldn't be surprised that Book Outlet didn't have this book. Then I did pick up also the first volume of Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui, which I have seen the memes, and it looks so funny and so cute, and it's really, there's so many volumes of it at this point. Like, it has really exploded. When did this first start coming out? It had to have been a while ago. 2017. The English translation started coming out in 2017, which does mean that, yeah, like, it's had some time to germinate. I'm excited. It looks fun. And the other one, this is one where I'm like, okay, well, I have read these books before, but I really, Aristotle and Dante box set. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe. Aristotle and Dante dive into the waters of the world. I recently picked up a DVD of the movie, which I haven't read yet, but I do have a DVD of the movie now, and I watched the trailer again, and I'm just like, beautiful, beautiful books. I'm very excited to reread them. And the last thing, I actually, so I ordered the other 2 books in the series too, but for the last 15 years, I've been trying, maybe not 15, last 10 at least, I'm trying to figure out what this book was. I'm like, I would have this vague idea in my head of like this big fish that spits people in like a treehouse, sort of, and I could never figure out what it was. And I posted it on r/what's that book, and it was solved in literally 30 seconds. Nightmare Academy by Dean Lorey. This is book 1. I believe book 1 is just called Nightmare Academy, but this is Enter the Portal to Monsters and Mayhem. I'm so excited to reread it, and this is also one that when I reread it, it can obviously go in my classroom. I do have books 2 and 3 coming as well. So there's that. That is my weekly weekend review. Again, next week there will be more books coming because that book outload order. But we're figuring this stuff out. We're figuring out with the. I'm gonna do a kind of a full video on this, but with the not doing TBRs, I'm not worrying about it. I'm not worrying about it, you know. So there's that. I'll talk to you later.